Welcome to Backstage with Kennedy. This little show will be your remedy. From Toronto, spanning across the sea. Cool people, lots of laughs. This is your favorite podcast.
Hello and welcome. My name is Kennedy from the Backstage with Kennedy podcast. I got a guest who's actually on the show for the second time, the first repeat offender, as I would like to say. Cam Gray from the Bare Minimum, sick band. Really enjoying their music. I got a little sneak peek on their upcoming single and was super amped about it. So yeah, I'm happy to have Cam on the podcast. How you doing, man?
I'm doing pretty good.
Good. So I feel like it's been a while since we spoke last time. And COVID has changed so much for all of us. I would have asked you this question probably way back, but now for you, how have you been dealing with COVID? Has anything changed since last time we spoke?
Not much. I mean, I think we started to learn how to function more as a band. So, I mean, the plan is the same as last time. We're still just going to keep pumping out singles and keep recording at home. Mm-hmm. We're starting to jam again. We're setting up our first jam. There's been a lot of problems with it. Like, our old jam space is this tiny room that it's impossible to socially distance in. So we have to kind of rent a bigger space. But the biggest problem is that kind of shows aren't happening anymore, and we're all kind of like almost adults, like approaching adulthood. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so it's hard to just justify jamming, taking time out of the schedule if no shows are coming up.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the challenges we're kind of facing, and just using our time and managing it well.
Yeah, I feel that. So obviously with shows, they're starting to come back a little bit, but it's not very frequent that you're seeing them. And for the most part, they are acoustic gigs, I'm finding. What are your thoughts on those drive-in shows? I know that a lot of people are doing those now. What are your thoughts on that? Are you for or against it?
I don't know. I'm interested in it, but I'm a little bit skeptical. I think the whole purpose, we've always tried to make our shows super high energy and kind of a thing you have to be there to experience. And so if you're going to just watch a broadcast of something, you might as well just listen to our album, Yeah. And so I'm excited to see what people do with it. I'm interested, but I think I'm a little bit skeptical that anything can kind of replace the energy of a sweaty basement show.
Yeah. No, exactly. And I think those are the best shows. I mean, a couple guests have even said it on the podcast now. They're like, there's nothing like a DIY punk show. You know what I mean? And Joppa House seems to always get brought up in that scenario. So that's pretty crazy.
Yeah.
So I know you're a big meme guy. You love meme culture and stuff.
Yeah.
So what draws you towards that so much?
I don't know. I think it's just kind of the weird, obscure humor of it, and just the multiple layers of irony. And I've spoken before how I don't think punk bands should just tell you what to believe in anymore. It's not like the early 90s. You have to we live in an age of fake news, and you probably have to learn how to think for yourself. And things like meme and that kind of internet culture do a better job of that. It's not obvious. You have to kind of interpret it a bit yourself, and we try to do that with our music.
Absolutely. And you've done it with not just the Bare Minimum, but your podcast that you have, where you kind of do segments where you interview bands, you get them to do their top 10 favorite songs or top 10 worst songs. I've actually really enjoyed those podcasts. And you've used kind of the meme culture visuals for it, where you've put their faces and made their faces talk and stuff like that. It's really quite interesting. Do you think the fact that you are into that meme culture has kind of drawn the inspiration for your podcast, I guess?
Oh yeah, for sure. I think it's a combination of that interest and just just finding a way to make interviews work, kind of with the technology we have. Like we don't have access to like a really nice podcast studio or like a great place to shoot things. And so we just kind of tried to figure out what we could make work. And these weird animated puppets are what we landed on.
It's quite funny to watch, actually. And you can tell that you have the respect from a lot of these people that you're interviewing as well, because they open right up to you, man. Like I forget what band it was, but it was a top 10 worst songs or something like that from a band that they were doing. That was the segment anyway. Yeah. And they were not holding back at all. And I loved it. I was like, that's sick. I'm glad that they did that,
Totally. I'm huge fans of all those bands. Like basically the podcast is, or the, like whatever it is, the interview series is just a way of me tricking bands into hanging out with me.
I feel like my podcast has kind of created the same idea. It's like, man, I love just hanging out with musicians and stuff like that. And especially during COVID when we couldn't really hang out, it's just nice to hang out with your friends and just talk music and shoot the breeze,
Yeah.
So you got this new single. Can you tell the people a little bit about it?
Yeah. It's called Scars and Stripes. It comes out on August 21st. So it'll be this Friday, whenever someone sees this interview. Yeah, I don't know. It's the first song we wrote with our new bassist, Donnie. It's a bit, I don't know what else to say. Hopefully you guys like it.
Yeah, it's sick. And one thing I've really realized about the Bare Minimum is your guitar riffs. You guys shred. You guys shred so hard. There's some stuff that I've found inspirations from other bands, like the way they play the guitar. I even picked up a little bit of Sum 41 on the one. I was like, I don't know if that was direct, but I heard it on the one riff, and I was like, oh yeah, this is sick. But yeah, that new song, man, makes me want to run through a wall. Like I'm so in about it, man. It was intense.
That's very nice. I'm glad we tricked you into thinking we're good at guitar. It's all smoke and mirrors.
So what local bands have you been listening to as of late, and like who would you be listening to the most, I guess?
I don't know. Gnarly Horse has a new single out called Haunt Me that's pretty good. There's a new band, they're not really local, they're from the States, called Pink Shift. They have a few singles out that I really like. I've been listening to the new Lawrence Arms records a lot. Skeleton Coast. I don't know. There's a Necrot is a death metal band. Not really the kind of music we play, but I'm excited for their new album coming this month. Mm-hmm. Those would be some. What about you?
Beautiful. You know what? I'm all over the place. I feel like every day I have a new favorite song or favorite band, and that's just been my life for the last 3 years. Kilroy AD, they released a song on Saturday. Super big supporter of Kilroy AD, JC and Miranda and Roy. They're really tight with me, so I love seeing them kill it. And the psychobilly, I'm really into psychobilly right now.
Oh yeah.
So that's definitely up my alley. I would say that's probably my most listened to. It's been on loop pretty much the last 2 days.
Nice. I'll check it out.
Yeah, man, definitely. So yeah, what's next for Bare Minimum? I know that obviously you said you're going to be releasing some singles, and you have been switching up your jam space to do something a little bit different in a bigger social distance place. Will there be shows for the Bare Minimum coming up? Are you planning on anything? Or are you kind of just getting the records out right now as you can?
Yeah. So like you said, there'll be new singles after this one. We have a few lined up, ready to go. Mm-hmm. We're working on a documentary on Jopo House. So I've been interviewing everyone who's been involved in it, and hopefully we can get that out over the next few months to kind of document what that place was, but also kind of talk about the venue economy in general in Toronto, and maybe think about what needs to happen to make venues sustainable, and not just all closing down.
I love that. It sounds like you guys are more not just about performing, but also about kind of creating the scene. keeping the scene around and, you know, ensuring that it has its long-term success, which is, it's bigger than any of us really, but that's amazing to hear, man. That's amazing to hear. Jopo House was like a legendary place. Kyle from the Filthy Radicals told me about it because I never had the pleasure of going, unfortunately. But everybody, if you're not sure what it is, Cam had a venue that was in a house, in like a mansion house that they rented out. And it ended up being torn down. So they turned it into like a festival venue. And you can talk to a bunch of punks from around the scene and they will all tell you that place is magical. So, Kim, have you thought about doing anything like that? Like in the future, like any other sort of venues like that? Or was that kind of like a one-time thing while you guys were a little bit younger and just willing to had the opportunity to do that?
Well, so the main force behind that venue was our bassist, our old bassist, Alan. And so it was his house where he lived was basically being shut down. And so he turned it into a venue.
Yeah.
And I think I've been talking to him a lot about pursuing promoting shows and like booking shows and maybe making another venue. He's in Montreal now.
Okay.
And so, yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think he needs to take a break from it all and kind of get away from it. But I think that's something he'd be great at and to think about doing. Yeah.
Absolutely. So, Cam, what was your favorite show you've ever done? Obviously, Jopo House holds dear to your heart, but what would be your favorite show you've ever performed on?
I mean, we got to open for a lot of cool bands, and we played some pretty good attended shows. But the one that sticks out the most in my mind is this really crappy show we played in Holland Landings at a Wild Wing, and there was nobody in the audience. Like it was weird that we even got booked there. And like as soon as we started playing, like all the families just left. Like we just ruined dinner for like a neighborhood basically, and the bass player just was like jumping on the tables, like kicking over salt shakers and stuff. And we got paid in beer. So weird shows like that are kind of more fun to me sometimes than like amazing shows that everyone shows up to and work well. So maybe I'll cite that one for now.
I'm with that. I remember I did a show in Burlington, and actually the crowd was half decent for the show. And it was I did a tour like last year when I was doing hip hop, and it was like our last show of the tour in our hometown of Burlington. And it was exactly like that, where all the families, it was in like a sports bar, all the families left. And then there was like a couple stragglers. There's some dude who looked like Santa Claus who was just loving it. He was in the back like dancing. And then all of our friends in the front. And it was just the weirdest thing I've ever experienced. I'm like, I've never thrown a mosh pit inside of a sports bar in my life and had Santa Claus in the back dancing. So, I pretty much good, Cam. Like, I just wanted to shoot the breeze, see how you're doing, man. I wanted to let people know about this single. Man, I appreciate you coming on for the podcast. And let's catch up soon once the world opens up a little more, right?
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. You know, it's an honor to be your first return guest.
Yeah, man, I appreciate it. You take care, Cam. Thanks, buddy.
You too.
Peace.
See ya.